Hey, it's me, Habibi, and this video is probably going to be one of my last guide videos on my YouTube channel. I personally don't really like making guide content and stuff like that, but I know you guys really like this kind of stuff, and not only that, this specific video was a sub goal on my Twitch channel. And don't worry, this guide is useful for both single player and multiplayer players. To make this simple and also to not waste your valuable time, I've broken down this video into 4 parts, which you can use the chapters down below in order to move across the video seamlessly. The first part is specifically on Navy compositions. What boats should you build, what boats should you use for fighting, and how many boats should you have roughly per naval stack. The second part will be talking about naval modifiers. Which naval modifiers are the best, which ones should you prioritize, and what type of modifiers will win you naval battles. And our third, we'll be talking about admirals and what trait in your admirals you should be looking for the most when it comes to naval battles. And finally, to finish off this video, we will talk about the specific micro of naval combat, also known as naval or fleet rotations. We'll go into the detail on how to do them and why we do them. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, I do want to show you guys this graph right here. Many of you aren't subscribed to this YouTube channel, and I would really appreciate it if you did subscribe, support a brother, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It would be very, very appreciated.
Master is angry with you, kitten.
Saw this video that I posted when Leviathan came out. This is actually outdated. Paradox have since changed their galley engagement width back to 1 instead of 0.5, meaning galleys aren't just amazing as they were before. Heavies and heavy ships still have their place now in Navy. However, galleys are still good in inland seas. That being said, when it comes to naval combat, there's only 2 boats that you should be using: heavy ships and galleys. How much you build depends on 2 things: where you're fighting and a modifier called engagement width. Engagement width is like combat width with regular stacks. However, unlike combat width, engagement width is impacted by 2 aspects: technology, which is like combat width, and admirals. I also forgot to mention the most recent addition to engagement width is where you fight. Open seas have a minus modifier to engagement width, while coastal seas and inland seas have a bonus modifier to engagement width. We will go into more details about admirals later in this video, but generally speaking, each pip of maneuverability on your admiral equates to 10% more engagement width. So this is 1444 right here in this example that I have right here, which means engagement width of base is 30, with the addition of the coastal sea, which is 10%, and then a 2 maneuverability on my leader is another 20%, pushes our naval engagement width to 39. But what does this 39 engagement width really mean? Well, every single ship has a different size of engagement width. Actually, carracks and heavy ships have a size of 3, while all other types of boats have an engagement width of size of 1. So that means with the naval engagement that we have, we can fit in 39 galleys into the battle, or we can fit in 10 heavies and 9 galleys, or 13 heavies, 0 galleys. So, what should your naval stacks look like? A good thing to remember is that heavy ships are always more efficient than galleys. Heavy ships have more cannons, heavy ships have more HP, hull size, and they move faster. And this is a comparison of 3 galleys to 1 heavy ship. Keep in mind that the engagement width of 1 heavy ship is equal to 3 galleys. They always, at every single tech, 1 heavy ship is better than 3 galleys, usually. However, it is important to keep in mind that there is a bonus to galleys in inland seas and coastal seas. So, if you see yourself fighting a lot in the Mediterranean, or fighting a lot in the New Malaya, ever since Leviathan came out, it's all inland sea, or even in like Japan, then galleys would be better than heavy ships. They're more efficient. So here are just 2 example stacks with the early game engagement width. I'm not going to cut it out with every engagement width because there is a lot of engagement width text. And not only that, like I said, admirals also impact your engagement width. I do generally like to overstack a little bit just in case if one boat sinks, you're not you're fully reaching the engagement width of your navy. So here's just 2 examples of a fleet. You have 13 heavies. This is like something that you would use on England, just like 13 heavies early game. That's like good enough for just 1 stack. And here is a really good composition if you're a nation like Venice. 3 heavies and 30 galleys. The reason why we still use heavies even when we're fighting an inland sea is because they have more HP than galleys, and because they do more damage, they go to the front of the battle. I believe this is right. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but from my experience, the heavies will always be the ones taking most of the damage when you use a composition like this, meaning your galleys won't die and they will keep fighting while your heavies are taking most of the damage. To wrap up, navy composition, you should prioritize heavies over galleys generally. Of course, there's nations like Brunei, Malaya, Venice who have galley combat ability, so you could argue using galley stacks is always better, but generally prioritize heavies over galleys. Always fill your engagement with plus a little extra in case one of the ships die during the battle. And your engagement with changes with technology. As the game progresses, you get more engagement with. You also get engagement with from the coastal tile that you're in, and you also get 10% engagement with per maneuverability pip on your admiral. If you do end up using galley stacks, do use at least 3 heavies to tank for your galleys. They do a lot of tanking and it's really worth it. And finally, detach all light ships and transports from your fleet. Don't use them. Light ships aren't that bad compared to transports, but they are more expensive than galleys and are weaker than galleys. Something to keep in mind. I see a lot of newer players, they like using light ships, especially if they have some like light ship combat ability. They're not that good. Just keep light ships for what they're good at, which is privateering and protecting trade power. This part is going to be a lot shorter than part 1. Right here, what you're looking at is the priority list of naval modifiers that you should prioritize over others, from top to bottom, top being the most important and bottom being the least important naval modifiers, and we'll go into a little bit of detail on each. Engagement width is at the top of this list because it should be obvious. The more engagement width, the more boats that are fighting, the more boats that are tanking damage, which means that you should be generally winning the naval battles. Of course, we will get into naval rotations later in this video, but that naval engagement is just important in every single aspect of navies. Next on the list is heavy ship combat ability, and this gets prioritized over galleys because, as I said before, heavy ships are generally better than galleys, and the reason why this is so high up on the list is because the amount of damage dealt is really important in naval battles. When a ship gets sunk, the entire fleet takes a morale hit, so the more damage you deal, the faster you kill things, the faster you will win a naval battle. This is the same thing for galleys, obviously, but of course, again, heavies have higher priority because they're generally better. Morale of navies is a very important modifier, but the reason why this doesn't go higher, if you've heard me say this on stream, I've said that morale of armies is the most important army modifier in the game, more important than discipline. The reason why it's lower is because navy battles work differently. You don't really reinforce naval battles, you rotate naval battles. So you want to do as much bursts of damage as possible in the small amount of rotations that you do. Again, we'll go into rotations in the later part of this video. If you want to go watch that part first, you can use the chapter and then come back to this part. But naval morale is still very important because when you reach 0 morale on a ship, it will just kind of sit there and it will take double the amount of damage that it would take normally. So of course you don't want your ships to reach 0 morale, which means that this modifier is still incredibly important. +1 roll off of own coast. This is like having a +1 on fire and shock on your admiral. The reason why this isn't higher than the other modifiers is because it's just like having +1 pips on your general. Of course, if you have a 6/6 general, that means you have a 7 roll instead of a 6 roll bonus. Of course, this modifier is still very strong. There are 2 ways to get this modifier. You can either do it by being in the English culture group, so that means that Scotland, as well as Wales culture, I don't know what nation you'll be that has Wales culture, they can also get wooden wall. The second way is through Malayan ideas. I don't believe there's other ways. Let me know down in the comments if there's other ways to get wooden wall. Ship durability. This increases the hull or HP of your ships. This is a pretty good modifier. However, it tends to come in sizes of 5%, while combatability tends to come in 10, 15, 20%. Because of that, this makes this modifier not that strong. Also, you got to keep in mind that dealing more damage is more important than being able to take more damage generally in EU4. This is a pretty unique modifier. Again, this might on paper seem really good. This modifier basically increases the chance of your ship disengaging when it gets low morale or low durability. A reminder that when a ship gets fully sunk, your entire fleet takes a morale hit, even the ones that aren't in the battle. And if you are low morale, your ship takes double the amount of damage. So the reason why this is actually not that good of a modifier is because when we're doing those rotations, generally we rotate our ships before they get to that point where they might disengage. Navy morale recovery speed. This is actually, if this was Army morale, I would say this is an underrated modifier. However, what's the point of Navy morale recovering if your ship repair speed is still the same? Because the durability percentage of HP your ship has is more important than the percentage of morale. It's still very important, the morale, but if your ship is at 30% durability but has 100 morale, you're not going to use that ship. So that's why this modifier ranks so low. And final modifier, light ship combatability. This is all the way at the bottom because you shouldn't even be fighting with these boats. Use light ships for trade and privateering. That's it. Okay, this is gonna be really short and sweet, but let's talk Admirals. What pip is the most important on Admirals? From what you watched so far, I think most of you can already guess it. It's maneuverability. Out of all of the pips that you can have on your Admiral, maneuverability is the most important. Maneuverability means more ships in the battle, and that is more important than better rolls. In this case right here, in this example case I have right here, I have a 6 maneuverability general, but I also have a 5/6 3 maneuverability general. It may surprise you that I would always prioritize this 6 maneuverability over this 5/6 3 Admiral. The reason being that 3 difference in maneuverability is 30% more engagement width for your naval stacks. So depending on what stage it is in the game, that is somewhere between 3 to 12 heavies that you can have a difference from that 3 pip advantage. So basically, prioritize maneuverability first, then fire, then shock. If you've watched my Portugal into Spain series, it's kind of an older one. You can see me physically learning this in a real life scenario, in a multiplayer scenario. However, this is still useful even in single player. You can use naval rotations to win naval battles against AIs because AI just death stacks. If you know how to naval rotate, you can win against AIs with half the amount of heavy ships if you do them properly. So what is exactly a naval rotation? A naval rotation is retreating a stack that is fighting before losing a single ship and then putting a fresh new stack into that same battle after the battle has been officially retreated or over, and engaging the enemy who is still low durability and low morale. Why do we do this? Well, reinforcing naval battles is generally a bad idea because if you have low disengagement chance, your ships that were fighting before, even though they get reinforced, will still be fighting in the front, and then they will start sinking, get low morale. And as we said earlier, when a ship gets low morale, it takes double damage. It takes double the amount of damage, and when it sinks, your entire fleet, even though new ships that get in, take a hit to morale. Here's a clip of a pretty smooth naval rotation. If you see, we win the battle on the right, we retreat the battle on the left, even though we technically lost. We now go into the battle. His ships now have low morale and low durability, meaning we now just sink his entire fleet and he loses almost his entire heavies in one play. Here's another clip of a rotation that we did. Again, we were winning the battle. And this guy sees that we're about to do a rotation and he immediately retreats. If you time a rotation correctly, the enemy can never retreat, because if you retreat on one tick and then your next stack goes in on the next day tick, they will be perpetually caught in battle without being able to leave. The clip of a triple rotation where we rotate a battle 3 times with 3 separate fleets. We leave the first battle and then we immediately reinforce again on the next tick with another stack, and then as soon as that one is able to retreat, we then reinforced with we sent in another stack and perpetually just kept this big GB stack in this never-ending battle. I didn't do the rotation entirely properly there, but I think you guys are starting to get the idea now. The entire idea is that you want to just rotate. You don't want to reinforce. You want to completely rotate and refresh the boats that you use, just like we used in this clip. You can go and get your track meet, and then drop my son off at his track meet. That's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked that video. I hope you learned something. Maybe you didn't learn something, but you just enjoyed it anyways. I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate all the people that watch my videos, the people that like, the people that comment, the people that watch my Twitch, the people that are part of my Discord community. I love you guys all. Thank you so much for making my dream come true of being a content creator. And yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you use this information to win your single player and multiplayer campaigns alike. And I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.